One of the things you have to figure out as a creator is how to moderate your comment section. What do you let through, what do you delete, and why? So that's what we're here to talk about today. But first, a quick content warning for the following: Nazis, ableism, transmisia, misgendering, suicide, and grooming. If you like our work and appreciate the research put into each video, please consider supporting the channel via Patreon. You can also support us by liking, commenting, and sharing this video on social media. I'd also just like to take the time to remind our viewers that the statements made throughout our videos are the opinions of myself, the host, based on the evidence I have available to me. They are not, and should not, be taken as unquestionable fact, which is why we reference everything, because we're fallible. Thus we strive to give you, the viewer, the ability to check all evidence for yourself in order to make up your own mind, which is what the reference numbers in the top left corner are for, being numbers that match up with the reference list found in the transcript linked down below. As such, we encourage all viewers to do their own research to reach an informed conclusion about the topic. Lastly, and I'm saying this even though I'm pretty certain I don't need to with you lot, do not abuse anyone discussed in this video. The evidence stands firmly on its own and is there for when people want it. That's how we've always operated. Suffice to say, just let them be. Trust that I can defend myself and that if I do catch anyone abusing anyone else, you will be banned across the board. Hi there, my name is Ethel Thurston, she, her, they, them, and today we're going to be discussing comment moderation on the channel, specifically in relation to recent events. This video is, of course, related to our recent video, Vangelina Skov plagiarized my Lily Orchard series, #JustAnotherIlluminati, which Skov responded to with a video of their own, titled Addressing the Accusations. I also published a secondary video, Rachel Oates defends Vangelina Skov's plagiarism of disabled creators, regarding Lily Orchard, H-Bomber Guy, which was recorded alongside the first video and gave additional information about the involvement of Rachel Oates. Again, all videos can be found in the reference section of the transcript linked below, and I suggest watching them for a comprehensive understanding. Also note that our editor, Levi, has produced a breakdown of Skov's response. This video isn't that, I just want to discuss comment moderation, so be sure to check out his video when you get the chance. So, with that noted, let's move on to the comments made by Skov's audience and why next to none of them made it through moderation. Put simply, I could tell that they hadn't watched the video. How could I tell? Well, because they were parroting easily debunked lies, such as the assertion that I'd hidden evidence from my audience, namely the 2 emails I sent Skov regarding the issue. I showed the first email at 45:42 and the second one at 50:45. So there was no hiding involved, meaning everyone accusing me of doing so clearly hadn't watched the video. This is important to me since the comment section of our videos is for people to interact with the video we made, not the video they imagine we made. So those comments were deleted. All except one, because I hate myself and decided to conduct a little experiment. Knowing that this was one of the easier lies to debunk, I let one of these comments through and replied with a short comment containing a timestamp to the emails. This meant that, as Skov's audience came in, all they'd have to do, the bare minimum in being critical for a second, would be to click that little blue timestamp to check things for themselves. Upon which, I would argue, any rational person would either leave or upvote the response demonstrating the lie. They wouldn't upvote the clear lie. So what happened? I got ratioed to hell and back. That tells me that a large portion of Skov's audience are effectively immune to evidence and reasoning. It doesn't matter that this was an easily disproved lie, their brand loyalty to Skov was stronger. Therefore, letting the rest of the comments through to try and reason with them one-on-one would be a display in futility. These people are clearly running on the mislogic that it's numbers that make an argument, not evidence, and I don't care for that. So into the void they go. Another common lie was that I blackmailed or extorted Skov for hush money, which is a claim Skov made in their video.
if I respond in any way without just giving them money to shut them up, which I don't want to give somebody money to shut them up. I don't want to give somebody hush money. I'm not Jeffree Star. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Except, as anyone who watched our video or actually read the emails for themselves would know, Skov's plagiarism was always coming to light, regardless of whether they paid the compensation we felt we were owed. Here, let me read you the section everyone seems to be ignoring so that you can understand what I mean. Quote, "These actions are to be taken along with issuing a correction/apology to all social media, as well as including an explanation of the issue at the top of the video description, run by us first, explaining the error." End quote. So do tell me, what's the hush part in the so-called hush money? This was not pay me and I go away, as Skov so boldly tells their audience, leaving very little ambiguity in their use of words. It was, in fact, you stole from us, here's what we feel the value of our stolen content is based on the portion used in your video. We also need you to come clean to your audience. No matter what course of action Skov chose, this information going public was already established from the very first email. Though it's not just the claim of hush money that's debunked by this revelation, but the general claims of extortion and blackmail, with blackmail in many territories being a subcategory of extortion defined by the threat of revealing secret information. Note, I'm going to be referring to British law on this matter. That said, I'm not a lawyer, just to be clear. Blackmail under British law can be divided into two distinct parts: an unwarranted demand and a threat, also referred to as menaces. An unwarranted demand is a demand in which the person making it does not believe that they have justifiable reasons for doing so, i.e., they are acting with ill intent under the law. This is why, as an example, when a person damages something of yours, demanding that they repair it else you'll complain is not extortion, since that is a warranted demand. You are well within your rights to demand compensation for damage to your property and to criticize them publicly if they don't. Meanwhile, threatening to out someone as LGBT+ if they don't pay you money is extortion, because them being LGBT+ hasn't done you any harm, making it an unwarranted demand. But before we even get to whether my request for compensation constitutes a warranted demand or not, we have to acknowledge the fact that I made no threat in my email. A threat, as it relates to menaces in law, can be defined as the expression of intent to cause harm unless a particular course of action is taken. This is what Skov forwarded when they assert that I was demanding hush money, telling their audience that I was ordering them to pay me, else the information goes public. Yet, as already shown, the information going public was happening irrespective of Skov's decision. I just offered them the chance to come clean on their own terms. There was no choice. That information going out was a foregone conclusion detached from the compensation, meaning there was no coercion, meaning there were no menaces, and without menaces, there can be no extortion or blackmail. This also means Skov's claims are, arguably, defamation on account of how they are accusing me of a crime which they know isn't true. It's incredibly ironic for so many people to tell me that I need to look up these terms, when no, they need to actually read what I said and not trust someone who has, by this point, proven themselves to be dishonest. That's why every comment describing blackmail or extortion, as well as hush money, is based on a lie. One which anyone who had watched our video or read the emails would be aware of, and thus goes into the void. It's worth mentioning that doing so takes with it the vast majority of the comments, since this was the number one lie people were parroting. Though, since we're talking about damages and compensation, something else I like to explain is why simply adding a source to the description doesn't fix said damage. As shown in the H-Bomber Guide clip used in the video about Skov's plagiarism, which was one half of the Illuminati comparison, a hastily cobbled together sources list is not enough to avoid plagiarizing. To avoid plagiarizing someone, you need to clearly identify which parts of a text have been taken from elsewhere and which parts are your own original content, as HBomberGuy explained here.
But here's where it gets interesting. Blair knows people might notice this, so she's come up with a defense mechanism. The video has a link in the description to a list of sources, where stuff she quoted or showed in the video gets linked. This is normal, lots of people do this, although usually they cite them when they use them in the actual video, but still. It's an unlabeled collection of links that's difficult to sort through, but if you keep digging, eventually you find a link to Brian Deer's YouTube upload of the documentary. So now if anyone criticizes the fact she ripped it off, she can say, "No, I was using a source, I cited it, check, it's in my list somewhere." And she uses this flimsy excuse to basically steal anything she wants. Blair frequently plagiarizes people, never mentions they exist in the video or cites them anywhere, but she puts a link in a list no one will read. So that makes it okay, right?
What's interesting is, in their response to me, Skov spends the first 5 minutes downplaying their attack on HBomberGuy and his audience, see the follow-up video for more on how that was bullshit, whilst also proclaiming to have learned so much from his video.
I said, I really liked HBomberGuy's video. I think the stuff that he said about plagiarism was great. He did a really good job with the video, but there's one little bit that I didn't like. Everything else he said about plagiarism was great, and I've learned from it, and I think other people can learn from it.
Blair frequently plagiarizes people, never mentions they exist in the video or cites them anywhere, but she puts a link in a list no one will read. So that makes it okay, right?
Yet Skov, along with many in their audience, are acting as if adding such a source list after being caught, so not even being proactive with it like Blair, somehow resolves the plagiarism. It doesn't. Unless Skov was to take the video down and add in the citations which should have been there in the first place, your average viewer still wouldn't know that the content was not their own original work. This also wouldn't address the damages incurred up until Skov updated the description. What makes this entire thing particularly frustrating is the fact that, had Skov just acknowledged us as a source in their video, none of this would have happened. Said commentary would have been covered under fair use, which is what we've always intended for here at Essence of Thought. Yet, for whatever reason, Skov decided not to. Moving on, we have the accusation that Skov only stole our evidence, specifically the 8 screenshots, which, for clarity's sake, were Skov's only screenshots for that entire 30-minute section. This is a lie in that it ignores the chapter following the one about the screenshots, titled Proving Vangelina Skov Presented Our Personal Thoughts as Her Own, which went into detail about how Skov stole the content between those screenshots. It's not a small thing either, it's actually the longest chapter in the video, meaning all of that was just erased by people making this accusation. Suffice to say, into the void those comments went. We then have the claim that I compared plagiarism to child rape, or that I brought up my own history without reason. That's just not true. This comes from Skov misportraying something I said, whilst criticising how half-assed their coverage of Lily Orchard was, specifically how they ended up promoting misinformation that Lily Orchard would use to discredit all her critics. Why don't we just play the section so that you can see the context for yourself? So, returning to the misinformation, Skov doesn't even do us the decency of going back to double check the specific context of her assertions. She just makes the most generic statement possible, and that's it. Which is not only dangerous in how it gives Lily Orchard ammunition, it's also fucking insulting. It's also insulting to the topic in general, along with all of us who have ever been made to suffer through similar violence. As someone who was raped as a child and later groomed online, I am personally disgusted by just how half-assed Skov's coverage of the topic is. Her commentary on the issue is worse than worthless. It is actively harmful. The reason Lily Orchard gets away with so much shit is because hacks like Skov present misinformation as fact, making more work for people like me by kicking up dust, making a mess of things, allowing Lily Orchard to slip away amongst the chaos. This is why it took us years to compile everything, to avoid the very thing that Skov, in her unending laziness, has gone on to do. Well, Skov, You've muddied the field and made it easier for a sexual predator to handwave her critics. I hope you're fucking proud of yourself. So not, as the lie claims, me comparing plagiarism to child rape. It was criticism of Skov's laziness and the damage that laziness caused to a topic connected to my personal history. Therefore, as with the rest of the lies, to the void those comments went. People said similar things about my foot, claiming that I blamed Skov for that. Meanwhile, here's what I actually said at the start of that section. So that's the case, meaning all that's left to talk about is the impact the entire thing has had on me, whilst also explaining where I've been the last month and a half. Because as much as I joke and try to laugh things off, this really couldn't have come at a worse time for me. And here's me wrapping up the stuff about my foot. At the time Vangelina Skov plagiarized me, I was getting ready to have surgery, meaning she added to said stress. I wish it went without saying that me noting how this came during an already stressful time, adding to said stress, is not me blaming them for my broken foot. It's me pointing out how Skov gives no thought to the people they're stealing from and their struggles. It was also an explanation of where I'd been for my subscribers, as noted at the start of the video. So again, comments go void. There were a couple more lies, such as the assertion that I believed I owned the topic. What was particularly funny about these ones is that a number of the people making them even acknowledged that I hadn't gone after the dozens of other people who had made such videos. Even people I'm on record as hating, i.e. Poppy, because it wasn't the topic or the person that was the problem, it was Skov stealing our work and presenting it as their own. These people almost had it, they just needed to think a little more about the evidence. But yeah, this is why the majority of the comments supporting Skov didn't make it through. By declaring these lies, that told me that they had not, in fact, watched the video, in spite of dozens of them asserting otherwise. Again, the comment section is for people who have watched the video. I'm not here to platform what amounts to spam. I'm up for having a conversation which is both give and take, not to be monologued at by a couple hundred people who didn't even do me the decency of hearing me out. On top of the lies, there were, of course, the abusive comments. One person telling Levi that it was sad that he was alive, another telling me that I'd eventually hang myself because I'm trans, and another telling me that I deserve to be raped again. Hell, one even told me that my criticism of Skov was worse than the Holocaust. We also got a bunch of ableism and general transmisia, all thanks to Skov and their various lies about my character and what I said. I mean, they didn't even acknowledge the fact that, before my video, Skov spat in my face by adding a sources list including everyone but us, and then threatened me with their lawyer. So I was understandably angry as a direct response to their actions. Skov just took that anger, drained it of all vital context, and presented it in a vacuum as if that's where I started. They repeatedly quoted my closing speech in which I told them that their reputation would burn upon the fires of their own history because plagiarists never steal once. All it takes is for one victim to speak out before others begin doing the same. They presented that as justification for their behaviour, the behaviour that triggered that response. So, if you want to talk about what people have left out, how about we start there? Again, check Levi's breakdown if you want a thorough analysis of Skov's entire video. This will be our last video regarding the issue unless Skov decides to start lying again. If Skov wants to spread misinformation about both their actions and mine, I will happily address that as I see fit. I know this video won't convince many of Skov's fans, but the information will still be here when others begin speaking out. That's what matters to me. Though, what do you think? What are your thoughts regarding our moderation? Why do you think Skov accused us of demanding hush money when the emails clearly show otherwise? What are your thoughts on our little experiment involving the claim that we left out the emails? Did you notice something I missed? If so, be sure to let us know in the comments down below. And if you appreciate what we do here and want to help out, please consider becoming one of our wonderful patrons who make our work possible. On that note, we'd just like to thank the following people: Matthew Kovac, Hannah Banghart, Gert Van Vorst, Marble Wings, Sosh Daniels, Flynn, and Higgins the Seagull. And for myself, Adita and Levi, take care now.